You are a bullied, bookish kid growing up in apartheid-era South Africa. You're so withdrawn that your parents once have your hearing tested because you seem lost inside your own head. Decades later, your net worth will pass $1 trillion, and your rockets will become the only way America sends astronauts to orbit. This is your life. You were born on June 28, 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa, at the height of apartheid, the country's brutal system of racial segregation. Your mother, May Musk, is a Canadian-born model and dietitian. Your father, Elon Musk, is a wealthy engineer who serves on the Pretoria City Council. This is not a story of poverty. According to your father, your family lives in one of the biggest houses in Pretoria, designed by a noted architect with servants and a private chef. Years later, you reject parts of that description, saying you grew up in a lower, later upper-middle-income household. But both versions agree on one thing: you're an intensely bookish child. You read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica. You devour science fiction by Tolkien, Asimov, Heinlein, and Douglas Adams. You're so absorbed in your own imagination that your parents suspect you have hearing problems. Doctors find nothing wrong. You're simply daydreaming about inventions. At 12 years old, you teach yourself to code. You create a video game called Blastar and sell it to a computer magazine for $500. School isn't kind to you. You're bullied relentlessly. At one point, the beatings are so severe that you need treatment for a broken nose. Your parents divorce in 1979 when you're around 8 years old. You choose to live with your father, partly because his house has a computer and a complete encyclopedia. At 17, you leave South Africa for Canada. The reason you later give is straightforward. You want to avoid mandatory military service in the apartheid regime. Through your mother's citizenship, you're able to leave. You spend time doing odd jobs, including working on a farm and in a lumber mill, before enrolling at Queen's University in Ontario in 1990. 2 years later, you transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, earning bachelor's degrees in both physics and economics. You're accepted into a PhD program in materials science at Stanford University. You stay for just 2 days. It's 1995. The internet is exploding, and you decide building a company is a better bet than finishing a doctorate. Together with your brother Kimball, you found Zip2, a company that provides online maps and business directories for newspapers. In 1999, Compaq buys the company for $307 million. Your share is about $22 million. You invest much of that money into a new startup called X.com, an online financial services company. In 2000, it merges with a rival startup called Confinity, founded by Peter Thiel. After an internal power struggle, you're replaced as CEO. Thiel takes over, and the company is renamed PayPal. PayPal goes public in early 2002, becoming the first successful tech IPO after the September 11 attacks. Later that year, eBay acquires the company for $1.5 billion. As its largest shareholder, you receive around $176 million. You use that money to fund the 2 companies that will define your life. In 2002, you found Space Exploration Technologies, better known as SpaceX. Your goal sounds ridiculous to most aerospace experts. Make rockets dramatically cheaper and eventually make humanity a multi-planetary species. The company's first rocket, Falcon 1, fails 3 consecutive launches. By 2008, you're almost out of money. One more failure could destroy the company. The 4th launch succeeds. Falcon 1 becomes the first privately developed liquid-fueled rocket to reach orbit. Months later, NASA awards SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. Later, you'll say that 2008 was the year both SpaceX and your other major company came closest to collapsing at exactly the same time. That company is Tesla Motors. Tesla is founded in 2003 by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. You join a year later as chairman and lead investor, putting in roughly $6.3 million before eventually becoming CEO. The first Tesla Roadster, released in 2008, is a niche sports car. Everything changes with the Model S in 2012, followed by the more affordable Model 3, which becomes the best-selling electric car in history. Meanwhile, SpaceX accomplishes something the aerospace industry once considered commercially unrealistic: landing and reusing orbital-class rocket boosters. Around these companies, you build an even larger portfolio. You launch Neuralink to develop brain computer.
You found the Boring Company to build underground transportation tunnels. In 2015, you co-found OpenAI and serve as its co-chair before leaving in 2018 after disagreements with co-founder Sam Altman.
In 2022, you make your most controversial acquisition yet, buying Twitter for $44 billion and later renaming it X. In 2025, you become the richest person in the world. In June 2026, after SpaceX's initial public offering values the company at roughly $1.77 trillion, your personal fortune surpasses $1 trillion, making you the first person in recorded history confirmed to reach that milestone. Politics becomes another defining chapter. In 2024, you become the largest financial supporter of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. After Trump's election victory, you're appointed head of the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE. The position lasts only a few months. Disagreements over business and government spending escalate into a public feud conducted largely through social media. You later admit regretting some of your harsher comments while continuing to criticize the administration's fiscal policies. Beyond politics, you face sustained criticism for amplifying conspiracy theories and making controversial public statements, including remarks that organizations such as the Anti-Defamation League describe as anti-Semitic, along with comments critics say downplay South Africa's apartheid history. You dispute many of those accusations. You grow up wealthy but isolated in apartheid South Africa. You build and nearly lose two companies that transform entire industries before becoming the richest person in recorded history. Depending on who's telling your story, you're either one of the greatest entrepreneurial risk-takers of all time or proof that enormous inherited and accumulated wealth can be turned into extraordinary influence. Serious people continue to argue both.